But I want to get into what it's like to be a submariner now and kind of submarines overall. We talk about Henry Bro and his incredible story, but when it comes to submariners in general, what's everyday life like on a submarine, and how big are the crews generally?
Today there's a couple major classes of submarines, and depending on what boat you're on, defines the size of your crew. I was on fast attacks. They're very compared to what I've read now. They're very comfortable, but by our modern standards, they're still a very Spartan life. We still hot rack, which means we still share racks with our friends. So there's 3 people to every 2 racks. Because the way the watch sections are organized, there's 3 watch sections, so one on watch, one getting ready, like doing maintenance, kind of awake. They're ready, they're available, and then one in the rack. So in theory, there's always the racks available, even when their switch out times are happening. It's not the most pleasant thing, and it's generally the most junior people that have to do that. So you not only have to share the space, your only private space on board, you also have to share the rack space that you have. So 2/3 of it already take it. You're already reducing the amount of actual space you have. Now, that's not an unusual occurrence, and most submarines, except for the boomers, which are the really big, nice ones, the Trident class submarines, the Ohio classes that are really big and very comfortable. We now have a lot. Good engineering has made submarines significantly safer and more fail-proof. And I'm very thankful for that. There is actually a anniversary coming up that I would like to recognize, which is the loss of the USS Thresher, which was on April 10th, 1963. So we're approaching the 61st anniversary of that. And the 129 people that died on it, they birthed SubSafe, which is submarine safety program. And it's because of that our submarines are so safe today. They really, it's another indication of what lessons learned came about from disasters. But unfortunately, we have to learn it the hard way. And there's a saying in the submarine force: there's a procedure for everything, and then there's a corollary to that every procedure is written in blood.
Yeah, that definitely seems like another one of those instances where it was an important lesson learned, but a difficult lesson and a tragic lesson. I That's a pretty jarring but poetic saying. There's procedures, but every procedure is written in blood. I mean, I guess that is pretty true. But I'm sure you would know better than anyone as a submariner yourself. Can you discuss the psychological challenges that you face down there for prolonged missions under the sea? You have pretty much no privacy, very claustrophobic, um, very lonely, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a bit of loneliness. You get homesick. The thing I personally did was I would write down the things I wish I could be doing, and then I would try to do them when I got back. The biggest thing I like to compare it to is Meursault from Albert Camus' The Stranger. And there's a portion where you kind of get this idea that Meursault is drifting through life in the first half. Then he goes to prison. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read it. Then he goes to prison, and then the first thing he realizes is, oh, I want to go out and take a smoke. He can't. He's in jail. It's the first thing that's taken away from him is the ability just to act on his impulse. And that's one of the first things you realize. It's not as extreme as prison, but you have a watch. You have to sleep to make sure you're awake. There might be drills. There's no very little control you have over your life. You're pushed in certain directions. That's why I focus so much on the things I wanted to do, because I actually sat and, all right, this is what I want to do. A lot of people journal. A lot of people write letters to home. My very last deployment, I have very fond memories of me and my wife sending emails to each other. And they're we she wasn't my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend, but that that's it's a very difficult thing when you have someone that you're waiting for, that's some waiting for you at home. When I was a single sailor, it wasn't too bad. You get used to the rhythm. You don't think about it because you're usually too busy. And they keep you busy, so you don't think about it too much. They keep you tired because that's just, I mean, you never get a full amount of sleep. I try to explain that to someone. Sleeping on a submarine is it's like a tease of sleep. You feel tired persistently, but at the same time you never get the sleep that you need. And like you said, there's no space. There's no space for you. If you stand in one spot for long enough, you're in someone's way. And you're in someone's way who's just as frustrated and tired as you. I was very fortunate because I had a lot of really good people on every ship that I served on, and I had a lot of good friends that I still talk to. And I was very fortunate because talking to them and helping focus my priorities. Like I decided I wanted to pursue history and write a book while I was on one of my last underways. I was like, I'm going to do this. This is what I need to do. All of these things combined, it's a special experience. I'm glad I did it. But like I said, it really was challenging. It was challenging to wake up every day, go to watch for 8 hours, then clean for an hour to 2 hours. Sometimes when I'm supposed to be sleeping, I'd get racked out to clean again, which was the glory of what we call field day. Uh, or drills. Drills could wake you up at any time, and we have a saying, never stay awake for drills because they can always be canceled. You might get lucky. But all of these things combined, that hardship, that level of routine, that work ethic, it molded me into the person I am today. And I have a lot to thank for that, and the ability and the discipline. It all came from the Navy, and I'm very happy that I took that opportunity because looking back, it's great. It was very hard at the time. Looking back, though, it was the best thing I ever did.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm a big believer in, growth coming through adversity. So I'm sure those difficult times no doubt made you into a much better person, and like you said, the person you are today. But I mean, kudos to you guys. I don't think I could ever be able to do that. I greatly value my alone time and my privacy. I need a lot of alone time to think, and I'm sure you get none of that on the submarine. And also, sunlight is probably a huge thing. I like to sit out in the sun every single day. It's a habit I have instilled in my days. And down in the submarine, you don't get any sunlight, do you?
No, no, and the longest I think I was underway was 67 days total. So it's they're long periods of time, and my time, people laugh at me there on the boomers because they spend about 90 days on average underway. So it's one of those ones where it's a friendly rivalry. We like to talk about who has it harder, but at the same time, you're absolutely right, and that goes back to Merceau. Merceau wanted to go out for a cigarette. You wanted to go out to get some sun. I wanted to go sit somewhere and play some video games or read a book. You don't have that. You don't have that freedom anymore. And that's really what I actually really liked about it because it reminds you do have a lot of freedom when you leave. Like once you're back at port, what's stopping you from going to do the things you actually want to do?
I think that's a beautiful lesson to take away from that, especially for anyone listening out there. You have no idea how easy you have it right now. So go do that thing that you want to do. Go chase that dream that you want to chase. I think that's a great message. But I'm sure it is a rude slap in the face once you get aboard is like you mentioned in The Stranger. You can't satisfy those instant impulses that you don't even think about in your normal day-to-day life. Like, oh, go for a smoke, go outside, get some sun. That you don't get any of that on a submarine, and I'm sure that was a very difficult adjustment to make, but like you said, you probably get used to it. And also something I'd like to touch on is, vitamin D, what we get from the sun is a very important vitamin for mood. And the lack of vitamin D down there, the lack of sleep, like you were mentioning, everyone getting in each other's way, I'm sure it could get pretty heated or grumpy down there.
Yes, oh, absolutely. It generally one thing that's great about sailors, and you'll notice this in really good movies that display it, like The Last Detail by Daryl Pontiac. He was the screenwriter for it. They were very quick to forgive. Like, grudges don't get held unless it's kind of a minor one. As weird as that sounds, the big ones we're willing to let slide as quickly as it's no longer convenient to hold that grudge. And then we're also quick friends. And the second we're back in port and we're all out and having fun together, everything's forgiven. Nothing was held against each other. But at the time, you have to work through those moments. You have people you can talk to. You have authority if it's needed. Very rarely needed. I mean, there are some small spurts of fighting, but there's very rarely injuries or this type of thing that needs to get escalated. And I'm glad to say that's really the cool thing about the free and easy sailors is you can move on very quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone down there forms a very tight brotherhood and bond, and you all become very close friends because you have to. You have no choice. You're in such close proximity. And on one side, that's the very close bonds, but on the other side, there's probably a lot of brotherly fighting, like you said. So it's very important, I'm sure, to be quick to forgive down there.